My brother left me $4.3 million in secret, but I told no one. My daughter said, "Mom, do you have—" I was folding laundry on a Tuesday when the world ended. Not with a bang or a scream or a crash, just the soft snap of a fitted sheet and the hum of the dryer and my own breathing in a house that had gone quiet years ago. I remember thinking the sky looked strange that morning. Not blue exactly, more like a washed-out denim, the kind of sky you see in hospital waiting rooms or outside the windows of places you never planned to be. I was 71 years old, and I had been folding laundry for 53 years of my life, first for my mother, then for my husband, then for my children, then for my grandchildren. My hands knew the rhythm better than they knew anything else. Fold the towel in thirds, then in half. Fold the shirt along the seams. Fold the sheet into a square that fits in the closet. I had folded thousands of sheets, tens of thousands, and that Tuesday I folded one more, while my phone sat on the counter buzzing with a name I had not seen in 6 months. My brother Frank. Frank was 3 years older than me. We grew up in a small house in Oregon with a father who drank and a mother who prayed. Frank protected me from the worst of it. He took beatings for me. He lied for me. He gave me his lunch money when I forgot mine. When I got married at 19, he drove me to the courthouse himself because our father was too drunk to show up.
Frank was the only man in my life who never let me down. Then he moved to Florida. Then he got married. Then we drifted, because that is what happens when you get old. You think you have forever to call. You think there will always be another birthday, another Christmas, another chance to say I love you. Then one day you realize you have not spoken in 2 years, and you do not even remember how it happened. His name on my phone that Tuesday made my chest tighten. I set down the sheet and wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up the phone. But it was not Frank. It was a woman with a soft Florida accent, a lawyer. She said Frank had passed away 3 weeks ago, heart attack in his sleep. She said he had left instructions for me to be contacted. She said there was a document he wanted me to see. She said it was urgent. I sat down on the floor of the laundry room. The smell of fabric softener filled my nose. The dryer hummed. The woman kept talking, but I stopped hearing her. Frank was dead. My brother, the one person who had never hurt me, gone. And I had not called him. I had not told him I loved him. I had not asked about his wife or his garden or his bad knee. I had just let time do what time does. I let it steal him without a fight. The lawyer emailed me the document that afternoon. I opened it on my laptop at the kitchen table. My hands were shaking. The document was a codicil to Frank's will, a secret one. He had signed it 2 years ago. It said that he had set aside $4,300,000 in a trust. The money came from the sale of his business, a small chain of hardware stores he had built from nothing. He had no children. His wife had died 5 years ago. He had left the money to me. But there was a condition, a strange one. I could not tell anyone about the money for 1 year after his death. Not my husband, not my children, not my friends, not a single soul. If I told anyone before the year was up, the money would go to a charity instead. He wrote a note at the bottom of the document, in his own handwriting. I recognized it immediately. The same messy cursive he had used to write me letters when I was a lonely young wife in a new city. The note said, "Sis, you always gave everything away. You always trusted everyone. That broke my heart. This money is for you to keep, not for them, especially not for her. Please, for once in your life, put yourself first." Her, he meant my daughter Lisa. Lisa was 46 years old, my firstborn, my only daughter. I had 2 sons as well, but Lisa was different. She was the one I held the longest, the one I sang to when she could not sleep, the one I drove to dance recitals and doctor appointments and college tours. I gave her everything, every dollar I saved, every hour I had, every piece of my heart. When her husband Tom lost his job in 2008, I gave them $15,000 to keep their house. When their first child was born, I moved in for 3 months to help. When their second child was born with health problems, I gave them another $10,000. When they wanted to renovate their kitchen, I gave them $8,000. When Tom started a new business, I gave them $20,000. I never kept track. That was my mistake.
I never kept track because I never thought I would need to. They were my family, my blood, my future. My husband Richard thought I was too generous. He said so many times. But Richard was a quiet man, a retired postal worker. He loved me, but he did not know how to fight. When I wrote checks to Lisa, he would look at the checkbook and shake his head, and then go back to his workshop in the garage. He built birdhouses, beautiful ones. He painted them blue and yellow and green. He sold them at craft fairs for $20 each. That was his way of making money back. That was his way of coping. He never said no to me, not once in 42 years of marriage. And I took advantage of that. I know that now. I took his silence as permission, but Frank saw it differently. Frank saw it as weakness. He visited me one Thanksgiving about 3 years before he died. Lisa and Tom were there with the kids. The whole family was there. And Frank watched. He watched Lisa take money from my purse when she thought no one was looking. He watched Tom complain about the meal I had spent 2 days cooking. He watched my grandsons ignore me completely while they played on their phones. He watched all of it. And at the end of the night, when everyone was gone, he sat with me in the living room and he said something I never forgot. He said, "Sis, they are not your family anymore. They are your parasites, and you are the host. And when the host stops giving, the parasites get angry." I told him he was being cruel. I told him he did not understand because he never had children. I told him Lisa was a good daughter. I told him I was happy to help. I told him that is what mothers do. He looked at me with such sadness. Then he kissed my forehead and drove back to his hotel and flew home to Florida the next morning. That was the last time I saw him. After I read the codicil, I printed it out. I folded it and put it in my underwear drawer, underneath the old nightgowns I never wore anymore. Then I went back to folding laundry. I did not tell Richard. I did not tell Lisa. I did not tell anyone. I kept the secret. For the first time in my life, I kept something for myself. The first month was easy. Nobody asked me about money. Nobody asked me about Frank, because nobody in my family had known him very well. Richard asked how I was doing after the funeral, and I said fine, and he nodded and went back to his birdhouses. That was Richard. He never pushed. He never asked twice. He assumed fine meant fine. The second month got harder. Lisa started calling more often. She had never called just to talk. There was always a reason. A problem at work, a bill that came due. A school expense for the kids, a car repair. She would start the conversation with, "How are you, Mom?" And then within 3 minutes, she would pivot to the thing she needed. Money. Always money. That month, she needed $2,000 for a new water heater. I wrote her a check. Richard saw the checkbook. He did not say anything. He just went to the garage and stayed there until dinner. The third month, she needed $1,500 for braces for my youngest grandson. I wrote the check. My hand did not hesitate. My heart did not either. That was the problem. I still believed she loved me. I still believed I was helping. I still believed the lies I told myself. The fourth month, Frank's lawyer called again. She said the money was ready. It was in an account in my name. I could access it any time. But she reminded me of the condition. 1 year. Do not tell anyone. She said Frank had been very specific. He had seen something in my family that I could not see. He wanted to protect me from it. I thanked her and hung up, and sat in my car in the driveway for a long time. I watched Richard through the kitchen window. He was making coffee. He looked old, older than 73. His hands shook when he poured the water. His back was curved. He had been a good husband, a quiet one, a steady one, but he had never protected me. Not really. He had watched me give and give and give, and he had never once stepped in front of me and said no. That was not cruelty. That was something else. Something softer and more dangerous. It was passivity, and passivity had cost us everything. I started to notice things after that. Little things. The way Lisa looked at my house when she visited. Not like a home, like an asset. The way her eyes moved from room to room as if she were calculating. The way she asked about Richard's health, not with concern, with curiosity. "How is Dad feeling these days, Mom? Has he been to the doctor? Does he still have that cough?" I realized she was waiting. They were all waiting. For Richard to die, for me to die, for the house to become theirs, for the money to flow downward like it was supposed to. I was not a mother to them anymore.
I was a holding tank, a place where resources sat until they could be drained. The 5th month, I stopped writing checks. I told Lisa we needed to save. Richard's pension was not what it used to be. Medical bills were piling up. I gave her a story, a soft lie. She accepted it with a tight smile, but I saw something in her eyes that night, something cold, something I had never noticed before. Or maybe I had noticed it and chosen to ignore it. That is the thing about being a mother. You train yourself not to see the bad in your children. You look away. You look away until you cannot anymore. The 6th month, she stopped calling. Just like that, the phone went silent. No, how are you? No checking in. No grandkids on the line to say hi, Grandma. Nothing. 2 weeks of silence, then 3, then 4. I called her once.
She did not pick up. I left a message. She did not call back. I called Tom. He said she was busy, work was stressful, the kids were sick. He gave me excuses like he was reading from a script. I drove to their house. It was a 40-minute drive. I had made it hundreds of times. The last time was to bring them a casserole when my grandson had the flu. This time I brought nothing but my own eyes. I parked across the street and watched. The house looked fine. The lawn was mowed. The kids were playing in the backyard. Lisa's car was in the driveway. Tom's truck was there too. I watched for 20 minutes. Then I saw something that broke something in me. Lisa walked out the front door with a suitcase. Tom followed her. They got in the car and drove away. They did not look sad. They looked normal, happy even. They were going on a trip, a vacation, while I sat in my car across the street like a stalker, like a stranger. I drove home and cried in the garage so Richard would not hear me. The 7th month, I told Richard about Frank's money. I broke the condition. I know I broke it, but I could not carry it alone anymore. I was drowning. I sat him down in the living room and I told him everything. The codicil, the 4.3 million, the 1-year condition, Frank's note, the whole truth. Richard listened. He did not interrupt. He did not get excited. He just sat there in his recliner with his hands folded in his lap. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something I will never forget. He said, "I always wondered why Frank looked at me the way he did, like I had failed you. Now I know." I told him he had not failed me, but we both knew that was a lie. He had failed me. I had failed myself. We had failed together. We had raised a daughter who saw us as a bank account, and we had never once stopped to ask why. The 8th month, Lisa called. Not me, Richard. She asked him how he was feeling. She asked if he had updated his will. She asked if everything was in order. Richard told me about the call that night. He was pale. His hands were shaking more than usual. He said she asked about the house, about the life insurance, about the retirement accounts. She asked if Mom has any money saved that we do not know about. That was the moment. That was the crack in the glass. Not the explosion, not yet. Just the first thin line that tells you something is about to shatter. I did not call her. I did not confront her. I just waited. I kept folding laundry. I kept making dinner. I kept sleeping next to Richard in our quiet bedroom. I waited for the rest of the glass to fall. The 9th month, I got a letter in the mail, certified, from a lawyer. Not Frank's lawyer, a different one, a local one. The letter said that Lisa and Tom were seeking a guardianship over Richard. They claimed he was mentally incompetent. They claimed I was unable to care for him. They claimed we were both at risk of financial exploitation. By whom the letter did not say, but I knew. They were accusing me, their own mother, of exploiting their father, so they could take control. I read the letter 3 times. Then I walked to the garage. Richard was painting a birdhouse, blue, his favorite color. I handed him the letter. He read it slowly. Then he looked up at me, and for the first time in 42 years, I saw something in his eyes besides quiet acceptance. I saw rage, real rage. He said, "They are trying to take everything." He said, "They are trying to put me in a home." He said, "They are trying to put you in the ground." I did not cry. I had no tears left. I just nodded and went back inside and called Frank's lawyer. I told her what was happening. She said she would handle it. She said Frank had anticipated something like this. She said the trust had protections. She said I would not lose the money. But she also said something that made my blood run cold. She said, "Your daughter must be desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. Be careful." The guardianship hearing was set for the 10th month, 2 months before Frank's 1-year condition would expire.
Lisa and Tom showed up with their own lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit who looked at me like I was a bug. Richard and I sat on the other side of the courtroom, alone. Our sons were not there. They lived in other states. They had their own lives, their own families. I had not told them about the money. I had not told them about the guardianship.
I did not want to put them in the middle. That was my mistake. Another one. I protected everyone but myself. The judge was a woman, older than me. She had gray hair and sharp eyes. She read the petition. Then she looked at Lisa. She asked her why she believed her father was incompetent. Lisa said he had been forgetting things, getting lost on drives, leaving the stove on. She said I was not managing his medications properly. She said she was worried about his safety. Then the judge asked Richard to stand. He did, slowly, carefully. The judge asked him what year it was. He said 2024. She asked him who the president was. He said the wrong name. I felt my heart drop. She asked him where he was. He said the courthouse. She asked him who I was. He said my wife, my beautiful wife. The judge looked at me. She asked if Richard had been evaluated by a doctor. I said no. Lisa interrupted. She said she had scheduled an evaluation, but I had canceled it. That was a lie, a complete lie. I opened my mouth to speak, but the judge held up her hand. She said she would order an independent evaluation. Then she would make a ruling. She said we would reconvene in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That was all the time I had. On the drive home, Richard did not speak. He stared out the window. I watched him in the rearview mirror. He looked small, smaller than I had ever seen him. The man who had carried me over the threshold of our first apartment. The man who had held my hand when our sons were born.
The man who had stayed, just stayed, through everything. And now his own daughter was trying to put him away like a broken toy. That night I called my sons, both of them. I told them everything. The money, the codicil, the guardianship, Lisa's lies, Tom's involvement, all of it. My oldest son, David, was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Mom, I am getting on a plane tomorrow." My youngest son, Mark, said the same thing. They both asked why I had not told them sooner. I said I did not want to burden them. David laughed, a sad laugh. He said, "Mom, you are not a burden. You are our mother, and we have been blind. We have been so blind." They arrived the next day, David from Colorado, Mark from Texas. They went straight to the courthouse and filed affidavits on Richard's behalf. They wrote about his sharp mind, his birdhouses, his memory for baseball statistics, his ability to fix anything in the house. They wrote about Lisa, about her history of asking for money, about the thousands of dollars I had given her over the years, about the way she had stopped calling when the check stopped. They wrote the truth, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was not alone. Lisa was furious. She showed up at the house the day after my sons arrived. She did not knock. She walked right in, the way she always did, like the house was hers, like my life was hers. She stood in the kitchen with her hands on her hips, and she looked at me with such hatred, such pure, clean hatred.
She said, "You turn them against me. You always do this. You make yourself the victim. You make everyone feel sorry for you. But you are the one who ruined everything. You and your money, your secret money, Frank's money, the money you hid from us." I said I did not hide it. Frank hid it. Frank left it to me, not to you. Never to you. She laughed, a sharp, ugly laugh. She said Frank hated me. He always hated me, because I was not afraid of him, because I saw through him. He was a lonely old man with no family and no future, and he wanted to punish me through you. And you let him. You chose him over me, over your own daughter. I said I did not choose anyone. I just kept a secret Frank asked me to keep. She stepped closer. Her face was red. Her eyes were wet. She said, "You are going to lose everything. The house, Dad, your precious money. I will make sure of it. I will tell the judge you are unstable. I will tell them you have been hiding assets. I will tell them you cannot be trusted.
I will burn it all down if I have to. Then she left. The door slammed. The house shook. Richard came out of the bedroom. He had heard everything. He put his arm around me. We stood in the kitchen like two old trees that had been through too many storms. Bent, but not broken. The independent evaluation happened 4 days later. A doctor came to the house, a kind woman with soft hands and a gentle voice. She talked to Richard for 2 hours. She asked him questions about his life.
His childhood, his work, his birdhouses. She asked him about the day we met. He told her everything, every detail. The rain, the coffee shop, the way I smiled when he said something stupid. He remembered it all perfectly. She asked him about Lisa. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I love my daughter, but I do not know who she has become. That is not my fault, and it is not my wife's fault. That is her own doing." The doctor wrote her report. She submitted it to the court. She found Richard fully competent, fully aware, fully capable of making his own decisions. She found no evidence of exploitation by me. She found evidence of a family dispute over money. Nothing more, nothing less. The second hearing was short. The judge read the report. She dismissed the guardianship petition. She ordered Lisa and Tom to pay court costs. She looked at Lisa and said something I will never forget. She said, "A daughter does not do this to her parents. Not for money, not for anything. You should be ashamed." Lisa did not look ashamed. She looked defeated. There is a difference. Defeat is not shame. Defeat is just the recognition that you lost the battle. Shame is the recognition that you were wrong. Lisa never believed she was wrong. She still does not. The 11th month was quiet. Too quiet. My sons went home. Richard went back to his birdhouses. I went back to folding laundry. But something had changed. The house felt different. The silence felt different. It was not peaceful anymore. It was empty. The phone did not ring. The doorbell did not chime. The grandkids did not visit. Lisa had cut us off completely. No calls, no texts, no Christmas invitation, no birthday cards, nothing. She erased us. After everything we had given her, she erased us like we had never existed. Richard took it hard, harder than I expected. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping. He would sit in his recliner for hours, just staring at the wall. I tried to talk to him, but he would not respond. He just shook his head and went back to the wall. He was grieving a daughter who was still alive. That is a different kind of grief, a worse kind, because there is no funeral, no closure, no grave to visit, just a hole where a person used to be. The 12th month came. Frank's 1-year condition expired. The money was mine, $4,300,000, untouched, unshared, unstolen. I called Frank's lawyer and thanked her. I thanked her for everything. Then I hung up and sat in the silence of my living room and tried to feel something. Joy, relief, triumph. But all I felt was tired, bone tired, the kind of tired that does not go away with sleep, the kind of tired that settles into your bones and stays there. I did not spend the money. I did not buy a new car or a new house or a new life. I put it in a trust, a different trust, one that Richard and I controlled together, one that would go to our sons when we died, one that would not go to Lisa, not a single dollar. Frank had been right. She would have taken it all. She would have drained me dry and then blamed me for being empty. That was 2 years ago. I am 73 now. Richard is 75. His hands shake more. His back is more curved. But he still builds birdhouses. He still paints them blue and yellow and green. He still sells them at craft fairs for $20 each. And I still fold laundry. I still make coffee. I still sit in the quiet of a house that once held a family and now holds only the echo of one. My grandsons do not call. They are teenagers now. They have their own phones, their own lives, their own opinions. Lisa has told them we are the villains, the ones who kept money from them, the ones who chose greed over family. I do not know if they believe her. I hope they do not. But I will never know because they never call. And I have stopped hoping. My sons visit when they can. David comes twice a year. Mark comes once. They bring their wives, their children. They fill the house with noise and laughter and the smell of good food. For a few days, the silence disappears. Then they leave, and the silence comes back, heavier than before. I think about Frank often. I think about his note.
his messy cursive, his warning. He saw what I could not see. He tried to save me from my own blind love. And in a way, he did. The money is safe. The house is safe. Richard is safe. I am safe. But safe is not the same as happy. Safe is not the same as loved. Safe is just the absence of danger. And danger was never the thing I was most afraid of. I was most afraid of this, the emptiness, the quiet, the knowing that my daughter chose money over me, that she looked at my face, the face that had kissed her goodnight 10,000 times, and she saw a checkbook, an obstacle, a problem to be solved. Sometimes I go into the garage and watch Richard paint. I stand in the doorway and I watch his hands move across the wood, slow, careful, deliberate. He is making something beautiful out of nothing. That is what he has always done. That is what I have always tried to do. Make something beautiful out of nothing. Raise children out of nothing. Build a marriage out of nothing. Create love out of nothing. And then watch it all get destroyed by the same hands you built it for. The other day, I found an old photo. Lisa at 5 years old. She was wearing a pink dress. Her hair was in pigtails. She was smiling at the camera with her 2 front teeth missing. I held that photo for a long time. I tried to find the little girl in the woman who tried to take everything from us. I could not find her. She is gone. Maybe she was never really there. Maybe I imagined her. Maybe I imagined all of it. I put the photo back in the drawer. I closed the drawer. I went to the kitchen and made a pot of coffee. I poured 2 cups, one for me, one for Richard. I carried his cup to the garage. He took it without looking up. His hand stopped shaking for just a moment. He looked at me. He smiled. A small, sad smile. The kind of smile that says, I am still here. I am still with you. And that is enough. It has to be enough, because it is all I have left. I never told Lisa about the money. She still does not know. She thinks Frank left me nothing. She thinks we are broke. She thinks there is nothing left to take. And that is why she stays away. That is the only reason. Not guilt, not shame, not love, just the absence of profit. She is waiting for us to die so she can sell the house and split the scraps with her brothers. But there will be no scraps. The house will go to David and Mark. The trust will go to David and Mark. Lisa will get nothing. Not because we hate her, but because she already took everything she was ever going to take from us, and we have nothing left to give. I am 73 years old. I have $4,300,000 in a trust. I have a husband who loves me. I have 2 sons who came when I called. I have a daughter who is a stranger. I have a brother who is dead. I have a house full of silence. I have a laundry room full of sheets that need folding. I have a life that looks like survival, but feels like something else entirely. Something closer to a wound that never closes. Something closer to a love that never dies, even when it should. Something closer to a mother who still waits by the phone, even though she knows it will not ring. That is the part no one tells you about betrayal. It is not the money. It is not the lies. It is not the courtrooms or the lawyers or the cold silence of a child who used to hold your hand. It is the waiting, the endless waiting for an apology that will never come, for a phone call that will never come, for a knock on the door from a daughter who still remembers how to say, I love you. I am still waiting. I will probably always be waiting. And that is the real tragedy, not the $4 million, not the secret, not the betrayal. The waiting, the terrible, eternal waiting for someone who is never coming home. I finish my coffee. I rinse the cup. I walk back to the laundry room. The dryer has stopped. I open the door and pull out the warm sheets. I shake them out. I fold them, one corner at a time, one memory at a time, one life at a time. Outside the window, the sky is that same washed-out denim blue, the same blue as the day Frank died, the same blue as the day I stopped being a mother to a daughter who was never really mine. I fold the last sheet. I stack it on top of the others. I close the closet door, and I keep living. Because that is what we do. We keep living, even when the ones we love forget we exist. We keep folding laundry. We keep making coffee. We keep waiting. And we never stop loving, even when love is the thing that broke us.